Hey everyone, welcome to Sorry. Welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie. Sorry if I seem extremely flustered right now. I just recorded my reaction prior to this to Symphogear. The first episode of that. New reaction series from Calypso Donation Reward. I am very flustered right now. I Okay, I need to stop focusing on that. Let's focus on turtles, please. Okay. I apologize. For those of you who are just here for the Ninja Turtles, I apologize. It's just I I I was so thrown off by it. Okay, so last time we got our start and I was kind of mixed on it. The pacing was way too fast. It just like kept going a million miles an hour. It needed to slow the fuck down. It was too fast. There was too much happening. It didn't let anything breathe. And I'm hoping that because that this series I now know has segments. The first episode was just double length because first episode. Hopefully that helps. Um, Now the actual story was just kind of introducing us to the turtles as well as kind of the supernatural elements that this show seems to be focusing on. And like I said before, the turtles have dealt with supernatural elements plenty of times in the past. It's not a new concept for the Ninja Turtles to fight, but It's interesting to see it implemented right away, because usually that's not brought in, to my knowledge at least, until later on in the series. Usually you start with the more grounded stuff like the Foot Clan and Shredder and all, but then you start to bring in the more supernatural shit after the fact, after we already gotten to know the characters. In this, it's kind of going the opposite. Now, as I said before as well, I like that the characters feel like teenagers in this one. Like, in so many of the other iterations, they come across as either being like too mature or they just don't feel like teenagers, really. And not that teenagers can't be serious and mature at times and everything. Of course they can. But it's like, for example, watch the Batman versus TMNT movie. The turtles in that do not feel like teenagers at all. Like, at all. Just because they like pizza and everything and they have senses of humor doesn't mean they feel like teenagers. Adults can like pizza and have senses of humor. And mind you, I love that movie. I think that's a fantastic movie, both for the Batman and TMNT aspects. But yeah, they don't feel like teenagers. In this, they actually do. They're moody, they're goofy, they're very immature and ridiculous, and they act like a teenager would. And yeah, they can be serious when it counts, when they need to be, but they are very immature for sure. And especially with the title and with what this seems to be going for, it's telling us about their rise. Like, they're new to this at the moment. They're still fresh in the shell, and they're still trying to find their way. Like, even the opening lyrics and all kind of imply that this is their beginning. And so I think that's a great idea, showing how they kind of reach that status. It's interesting though that if this is their beginning, like outside of, just the mutation in general, it is interesting that they already know April. I do want to know how they met. Because that's also very different, that we already have them friends with April right away. Now, I did watch a reaction to this because I believe I stated it last time, but Nani no Anime is doing a reaction to this series. And I did watch the first episode, and Boom Sentai, one of the reactors in Nani no Anime, is a big Turtles fan. And he noted that, yeah, there are some things that are very different here. Splinter being one of them. Even, like, he was thrown off by that. The other members of the group seem to be, like, just very casual fans. Like, oh yeah, they'd seen some stuff for Turtles, but never, like, were really into it. But Boom was the big one. And Yeah, like he was very thrown off by Splinter and a couple other things. So it seems like I'm not the only one there because Splinter is very different, very different. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting the kind of stuff they're going with for sure. It seems to be handling things very differently. What is very clear is that the voice acting, for the most part, with like the exception of John Cena, who can't voice act, and Splinter, who we need to hear more from, and definitely need to hear him being more serious before I can really judge on that. But um, most of the voice acting, and of course the animation, is fantastic. The animation looks absolutely fantastic. It has a more anime style to it in general, and I believe the reactors in Nanino Anime pointed that out as well. And that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, in some ways, it actually works for the TMNT. It actually fits their just general style. I like the idea of Donatello having like high tech weaponry and all. It really works for him being the techie guy. Um, and Raphael having kind of a softer side to him and everything is pretty cool as well. Apparently, according to, I think it was Boom Sentai who also said it, but in the 2012 series, he apparently had a pet as well. So like, I mean, I don't really think that the cat creature thing from last episode is going to become Raph's pet, but apparently he had a pet in the 2012 series, according to what I believe Boom Sentai said. Um, and that was one thing I think I saw in the comments for the first episode last time. I think someone told me that I should have reacted to the 2012 series first, but the thing is, they're not connected. They're two separate shows. So, yeah, it's going to be a different tone, a different style, but there's really no reason to have necessarily reacted to that first, right? It doesn't really matter in the long run. Again, they're two very different shows. They have their own continuities and canons and stuff, so what does it really matter? I don't see how that would actually change anything. Um yeah, the biggest issues for me were definitely the pacing. Some of the derp faces were also a little weird. Um but that might not be like necessarily a huge thing throughout the entire series. Um or I might get a little more used to it. Um and a couple voice actors were a little off. Plus, Splinter's portrayal was very off. But I've been told apparently in the comments, which by the way, be careful about this. Someone in the comments said that things will get better with that, or like I don't know exactly what the comment was. It was like just wait, or like it'll get better, something like that, something in that vein. Be careful about saying stuff like that because that does get kind of on the edge of being a spoiler. Telling me that, oh yes, things will get better with Splinter, it's like you're basically telling me what's going to happen with the character. You're basically telling me the character is going to get some more serious or emotional or important moments that are going to be more of what I would expect with Splinter. And while I could have maybe surmised that myself, it's kind of spoilery. It's kind of on the edge for me because again, it's like it's kind of one of those things that I could have guessed, I could have expected, but it's on the verge for me as counting as a spoiler. So just try to be careful about stuff like that. Telling me like, oh, a character is going to change after some point, or a character is going to like grow or something like that. It's kind of teetering on the edge. It doesn't like reveal too much, but it's right there, you know. So just be careful about stuff like that, please. That's all I ask. Um, but yeah, I'm very very interested to see where this goes. Because I'm expecting it to get better. Like first episode jitters, like it's it's hard to truly judge a series on the first episode. Like some shows, it's like you can get the general feeling for it, but if it's just a couple things like this that could easily be rectified in future episodes and stuff, it's something that I can definitely continue to give a chance to. Because it's like, if it were more like I don't like how these turtles are portrayed, then that's something that would be a lot worse for me. Then that's something that would like probably have caused me to not continue this. Or if like, oh, I don't like how the story is at all, then that would be something that would have probably caused me to drop it right after the first episode. But no, for me, it's just like, oh, the pacing needs to be better. And it's like that, of course, that'll probably get better. And it's like just a few little things here and there that, of course, are probably going to improve. It's like, it's nothing major. And that's why I felt like continuing was easy enough of a decision to make. But that all being said, we're just going to get into this. We're going to check out this second episode and hope for the best. Hope it's better. Now, I will say right off the bat, and I'll say this at the beginning of the reaction itself as well, just in case anyone, skips past these pre-thoughts, which if you do, fair enough. But I hope some of you at least watch them. Chime off in the comments if you watch the pre-thoughts. But either way, I will say that a lot of the series on the website I get it from is split into segments. So it's like split into like 2A and 2B. So I will have to change the video in between. So just letting you know that for most of the episodes it's like that. Not all of them, but most of them. Either way, let's just get this going. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this was better than episode 1. And I think that splitting it into segments was the big thing that helped it. Having it be one like full length episode, it with the kind of humor and style that this series is clearly trying to go with, it's like it's weirdly rushed. Like you would feel like there'd be like too much time. But no, they tried to fit in too much with a full-length episode. And again, maybe that was part of just the jitters of being the first episode. They wanted to do a lot to get it started. But it was so million miles a minute that it didn't give you time to think and breathe. And by contrast, this episode, 2 different segments, less time. So you would think there would be less time for the gags and they would want to fit more in. But it was so better paced. It was much better paced both times. And so let's talk about it. So the first one, the origami one, we have Leo taking charge. They're trying to find a job, something to do, but it's kind of like they don't want to do anything too advanced right now, too above their grade, not dealing with like actual murders and shit. So they decide to go after some paper thieves. And they end up getting pretty outsmarted and everything by these thieves a couple times before finally cornering them in their hideouts where they're taking all the paper to, including some paper salami that they made as part of a trap, but it didn't end up working. Also, that was like the only part April was in both of these episodes, by the way. Like, April had a notable role in episode 1, and then in this, she appears like basically for a single scene. And it's like, okay. So she's not going to be as constant as maybe I thought. Or maybe just in this episode she wasn't a big part of it. I don't know. But either way, so they start to fight the origami dudes because they start using origami to turn into enemies somehow. Um, it's never explained. It's just one of those power things. And these two, it didn't. I don't think imply that they were bitten by any of the mutagen mosquitoes. Um, so I don't think that's a thing with them. That comes into the second segment here. But the paper enemies are easy enough to take out, and they end up taking out the bad guys as well fairly easily. It's not a real challenge. Like, and that was kind of the point. It was they were trying to find enemies who wouldn't be that hard to take out. They were just outsmarted a couple times, but they ended up making it work. The second segment, Donnie's Gifts, centers around, well, Donnie giving the other turtles gifts. And the thing is, it's made pretty clear as soon as they get the gifts and all that that they're meant to control them. Leo's is a shock collar. It's literally a shock collar. Every time he tells a bad joke, it shocks him. And that's its intent. That's its purpose. Mikey's is to stop him from being wild and acrobatic. It's a suit that stops him from doing that. And Raphael's is a helmet that is supposed to be kind of like the Iron Man helmet, or even Spidey's mask in the MCU has like the AI in it. And it's meant to help him, actually formulate plans and stuff. But none of them like their gifts because they're literally trying to control them. Donnie made them to control them and to stop them from being themselves. And I hate that. And the thing is, Donnie never apologizes. And it's made very clear that, yeah, that's what his intent was. He does say at the end, it's like, you're good just being yourselves, but it's like he never actually apologizes for literally trying to control them. Again, he gave Leo a shock collar. Like the other two are just kind of but really? Like, it probably didn't release enough voltage to actually do real damage, but still. That's kind of fucked up. And just him trying to change them in the first place is really fucked up. Like, even if he's annoyed by the bad jokes, by Raph's go-to attitude, I can't think of... There's another word for it. Just the fact that he doesn't think things through enough. And by Michelangelo being very wild and carefree, like, he could talk to them rather than trying to fix them. It's like, I kind of like Donatello before that segment, but it's like, that's fucked up. And also there's a pig guy who was a celebrity chef, Gordon Ramsay, with the appearance of Mario Batali. And he becomes a pig and eats the silverfish thing that allows him to multiply as well because he can absorb powers. And he's there. He's the enemy of the week that they have to face. It very much feels like an enemy of the week situation. But yeah, he's not really that impressive or anything. He's just kind of there. Also, his name is Meat Sweats, and that's gross. But overall, it's like they end up using the gifts in different ways than intended. Leo throws the shock collar into Meat Sweat's pants and starts telling the jokes to shock him. Mikey starts using the inflatability of his suit to bounce around and actually make himself more acrobatic. And Raph uses the smart helmet as a boxing glove, basically. Um, and the fact that Donnie was getting upset at them for misusing his inventions, it's like, you're the one who's fucking trying to change them. How is that okay? Why? I wouldn't be as upset about it if he had apologized. If he had just apologized, I wouldn't be upset. But instead, he had to just act like they were in the wrong at first, and then just kind of willy nilly let it go at the end. The pacing was still good though. Like most of it was fine until the fact that that all came about. The first segment was leagues better. The second segment does irritate me a lot. Um, but the pacing was a lot better. The voice actors who did the like villains were a lot better. I mean, you have Maurice LaMarche and Rob Paulson in the first one, the first of these two segments, and it's like those two are veteran VAs who have done so many amazing roles. It's like, yeah, of course they're going to be great. I would not have realized that was Rob Paulson though. He was doing like this light, raspy voice you could barely hear. Like I was making the joke, it's like, do you need some water? It sounded like he was having trouble speaking or something. But it was so unrecognizable because of that. It's like usually like you could tell like Carl Weezer and Pinky have the same voice, and Yakko and all of that. You could tell they have the same voice. It's just variations on it. But then you have something like this, and it's like, no, you can't. Maurice LaMarche can change his voice a lot more distinctly, to where you might not recognize him for every voice he does. Aiwei in Legend of Korra, for example, is very different from his voice for the Brain, from Pinky and the Brain. Very different performance. So it's not as much a surprise I didn't recognize him, because he's done various voices that are different. So that's not a big issue. Also, fun fact: I almost met them. There was a convention called Midwest Media Expo that's now kind of defunct, unfortunately. But in, I want to say it was 2016 or 2017. They were supposed to be coming to it, but the hotel canceled the convention literally days before it was supposed to happen, which, by the way, is still fucked up and everything. And even though another hotel came to the rescue and decided to help put something on, which ended up becoming called NotCon, because of the situation, not all of the VAs were able to make it, unfortunately. Some of them had already canceled their flights and all, and so Rob Paulson and Maurice LaMarche weren't able to make it back for that one. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to meet them. I did meet Brian Massey at NotCon though. He's done a lot of great voices. He's Oolong from Dragon Ball. He's the Freezing Alchemist from the first episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Isaac McDougall is his name, by the way. And various other things. He's Detective Gumshoe in the Ace Attorney anime. That's one. But yeah, I met him there. I met a couple others as well. David Eddings and John St. John I had already met by that point, but I saw him again. But yeah. So the couple that were able to still be there, I did get to meet and everything. But it sucks because I would have loved to meet Maurice LaMarche and Rob Paulson. Like, I grew up with Pinky and the Brain. So it was cool getting to hear them in this and doing different voices than I would normally expect from them. So that's really cool. And they did a genuinely good job. But yeah, this first segment here was very much better than episode 1. The second segment irritates me quite a lot, but certain things about it, like the pacing, were still better than episode 1. So I think it's on the path to becoming a lot better, but there's certain things that need to still keep moving forward, basically. And the thing is, I'm not. While I'm angry that Donatello did that, he's a teenager, and again, they all act like teenagers in this. Teenagers make stupid mistakes, and yeah, sometimes don't apologize for them, and that's actually fairly normal. So it works, but it's just irritating because it's like the mistakes he made there were pretty terrible. And maybe that's just because I have an issue with people trying to fix me. So many people have tried to do that with me for various reasons. I've since coming out as trans, for example, I've had multiple people literally try to fix me in regards to that. People I considered friends too. And so I think that's why it bothers me as much as it does, because of the personal connection. And it's been for other stuff than just being trans, for a lot of various things. My father is a big example of that, for having tried to lead me in a manly direction back when I quote unquote identified as a man, as male. So yeah, it's like there's a lot of issues I have with that kind of thing. So I'm sorry if I seem to like maybe even like too harsh on it. It is personal for me, so I it got me angry. It did. I understand he's a teenager. I understand they're gonna make stupid mistakes. I get that. Hell, I even like that. But it's like that one hit me on a very personal level, and it bothered me. Just saying. Um, but all that being said, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of episode 2 of Rise of the TMNT? Let me know, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.